introduce our first panel this morning. The title of the panel discussion is Data Centers in the Middle East, the Drivers of the New World Digital Economy. So I'd like to welcome our guest today, our moderator, who is our panelist, Engineer Maqbool Al-Wahibi, CEO of Oman Data Park, Musab Abdullah, Executive Director of Bahrain Economic Development Board, Kamel Tawil, Managing Director of Equinix, and Ahmed Al-Hamadi, Senior Director, Data Center Solutions, E and Enterprise. Would you help me welcome them to the stage this morning? And of course, our moderator, Tim Chambers, Director and Founder of Exuvi8. Welcome, Tim. Okay, if our panelists would like to make their way up to the stage, thank you.
Good morning. My name's Tim Chambers. I'm a partner in a data center consultancy company called Exuvi8. We are all about energy efficiencies and we specialize in single and dual phase immersion. I've got the honor of introducing the panel today and also moderating. What I'm going to do, I'm going to pass you around to each of the panelists now so they can all introduce themselves and then we'll get on with the topic straight away.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum and good morning. My name is Ahmed Mohammed Al-Hamadi. I'm part of E&. E&. is the new brand of Etisalat. Maybe everybody knows Etisalat very well. In Etisalat, we have carved out some of the companies. One of them is E&. Enterprise, which focuses on digital business services. I have been in the organization for around 20 years now. So September was my 20th anniversary. During my career, I spent 1 year in Mobilia, our sister company in Saudi Arabia, when they started the data center business, and I do work with our other opcos as well in Pakistan, in Egypt, as well as in Morocco Telecom. My main role in Etisalat or in E&. is I'm handling the business line of data center, which is the focus of data center for external customers. So anything for internal use is handled by the technology team. Anything for customers and external partners is handled by myself. And I do manage the entire business line, so that is from commercial strategy, operations, as well as the overall P&L.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, good morning everyone. So my name is Kamel Tawil. I'm the Managing Director for Equinix for the MENA region. Just a brief overview about Equinix. Equinix is the world's largest digital infrastructure company. We operate data centers in more than 30 countries, over 260 metros, 56 metros, sorry, and 260 data centers. So, our data centers act as global interconnectivity hubs where digital ecosystems interconnect to really build the digital infrastructure of the future. In the MENA region, we are currently operating 3 data centers in UAE, 2 data centers in Dubai, and 1 data center in Abu Dhabi. In UAE, we operate in partnership with our alliance partner, DO, where we manage the most interconnected ecosystem in the country and maybe in the MENA region. Now it's working. So we have hundreds of enterprises, network service providers, cloud service providers that all live and interconnect within our digital hubs or IBXs, Internet Business Exchanges. We also operating data centers in Oman in partnership with our partner Oman Tel, where we have our regional hub in Muscat, MC1, where we are hosting some of the leading cloud service providers and enterprises in the country. We have also announced plans to expand into Salalah very, very recently. So where we are also building a new data center that will act as an interconnectivity point for all the cable landing in Salalah. We've also announced our entry into Saudi with the Internet Exchange in Jeddah in partnership with Mobily. So with these facilities, Internet Exchanges and interconnectivity points, Equinix is the platform for the digital infrastructure. We really help the economy of the MENA region to scale and adopt digital transformation. Of course, all of these sites are interconnected within our global fabric platform that constitute a global digital ecosystem where the whole, where more than 10,000 plus enterprises live and interconnect. Thank you.
Hello and good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Musab Abdallah. I'm the Executive Director of Investment Development at the Bahrain Economic Development Board. And what we do is essentially we are a neutral entity that works to facilitate inward investment into the Kingdom of Bahrain. And within that remit, I do that for tech, basically, as well as digital entertainment, film industry, and a few other verticals. But in order to do that, the other part of our remit is to make sure that the ecosystem is fertile enough to be ready for such investments. So we also undertake a number of initiatives. Some of those also in concert with our regional neighbors, because data and technology is all about interconnection. It's not just about being within one location. So some of the initiatives that we've worked on is obviously Bahrain had attracted Amazon Web Services to set up their first hyperscale region in the region. But more recently also we've supported the launch of an independent association, the Gulf Data Center Association, which is region-wide and has already had an event in Bahrain and the UAE last week, and Riyadh next month, which works as a platform for not just the data center operators and the telcos, who are your, let's say, your usual suspects when it comes to data centers, but also all the other players within the ecosystem, including the real estate companies, the legal firms, the architects, the engineering teams, and the customers themselves. So ultimately, we do work very, very closely with our national stakeholders, with our regional partners and stakeholders, and we do think that the region as a whole has some very strong potential to be basically the next data hub, and our hope is to see the region shift from a net consumer of content to a net producer of content. So happy to be here with my fellow panelists to discuss about the future of this very exciting industry. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Maqbool Al-Wahabi. I'm the CEO of Oman Data Park. Oman Data Park is a cloud service provider, CSP, in Oman. It has been established since the year 2012. We had just celebrated our 10th anniversary last week, so it was a successful journey, I must say. The rationale behind the success of Oman Data Park is basically the data residency part. So a lot of these market segments in Oman, as well as the GCC, they are mandated legislatively to have localized data residency and to use cloud. So I think that was an opportunity for us, and basically we work with our with other international cloud service providers. We host some of their, let's say, cloud stacks within our data center and provide it as a service to our end client and consumers, such as the oil and gas, financial sector, government sector mainly, utility, and others. We've been, so far we are serving around 600 plus corporates in Oman and outside. Our, I would say, competitive edge is around professional services mainly. So we provide professional services on top of the cloud stacks that we position. The second element of the equation is basically, as I said, to try to manage data and localize it to adhere to the data residency part of the story. We have around 4 data centers today in Oman, 2 in Muscat, which is the capital. We have 1 in the Midland, and there is another one coming in the interior part of Oman, a place called, city called Nazwa. With those 4 data centers, we manage also the disaster recovery part of the story and the BCP, business continuity side. We are 100% owned by the main telecommunication provider in Oman, Oman Tel. now. Previously, there was other shareholders who have, today Omantel actually acquired all of the stakes. So yeah, it was, I must say it has been a successful journey. I was there from the initial stages of the establishment of Oman Data Park. I was lucky to be among the founders of Oman Data Park in 1st of April 2012. And yeah, we are here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, hopefully you understand that we've got a panel now which actually spans the whole of the MENA region. What we're going to talk about this morning is what the current state of play is, and then what the plans are to, I suppose, cope with the change. There's lots of new ideas, new developments in this region. There's a lot of dependencies starting to appear on IT. So the first set of question really is, where do the panel believe we are today managing what's going on in the region? So if I pass everyone around again.
No, I think if we look at the region in general from IT perspective and from infrastructure, I think, I mean, we are doing well. So if I look at the overall infrastructure, I would put it in two pillars. Maybe if I add resources, that will be three pillars. So the main pillar is the infrastructure. We have very stable power. We have very fast and reachable connectivity. We have very good sets of state-of-art data center facilities. Some of them are purpose-built, built based on campuses, so it can scale up. Tier 3, Tier 4 in some of the places, concurrently maintainable facilities. And then if I look at the IT part as well, so we have good cloud companies that are operating here now in the region. So we have Microsoft already existing. They announced, I think, in 2019. We have Oracle since 2018. We have Amazon services, Amazon Web Services starting this year. Alibaba is in the region already. Google is scouting, so I think it's not far away that they will be also operating in the region. So I think from cloud perspective, we had good sets of hyperscalers. Also, we have the local companies, mainly the telcos and some other providers who provide in-country cloud infrastructure. So I think from that pillar, I think we are doing very well. I would say UAE as well as the GCC countries. But if I look at other sets of services, let's say the tools and systems that helps maybe automate and orchestrate the overall processes, this is something, if I look at deeply from my domain, which is data center, this is something that maybe we should do a little bit better on how we can improve the operations of the facility using tools. I saw today, many of the exhibitors here having some DCIM, so I think we will have some interesting discussion about it. The third pillar, which is very important, is skilled resources, which is something, the higher you go in the stack, I think the more difficult to find an affordable skilled resource. So it's a challenge, I would say.
Thank you. This is working? Okay, cool. So yes, definitely the region have seen an acceleration of digital transformation and digital economy in the past few years. The pandemic has also accelerated that transformation in a very, very fast pace. So I say that if a business has not moved into to become a digital business in the past 2 years, most probably they have no business, because that acceleration has really happened in all levels, all sectors of the industries. So, and also definitely in countries like UAE, Bahrain, Oman, Saudi, the government has put very strong programs and initiatives around diversification and around moving into digital economy. And we've seen many initiatives in that regard, which is very well respected and very well appreciated. And definitely there is growth in the ICT sector in general, and there is a good prospects moving forward. However, that's on the good side, but on the other side, if we look at the contribution of the digital economy and the overall GDP of the MENA region, even though it differs from country to country. Some countries are higher than the other, but the average is between 2 to 3% average. At max, it's 5%. If we compare that to more developed countries, where we are seeing that the average contribution of the digital economy into the GDP is between 8 to 12%, minimum 8 going up to 12. So we see that the region has still a very good potential to catch up. So we're still at the beginning of the evolution of that digital transformation. Now, in number terms, if you look, for example, in the US, where the GDP, where the digital business contribution to the GDP is between 8 to 10%, that's around $1 trillion of new money getting into the economy because of the digital business, which is creating a huge influx of money, trillions of dollars, and hundreds of millions of jobs. So the potential of the digital economy in growing the GDP of the countries is still very, very high. So we believe that we still have a very good prospect to grow. So from 2-3% to an average of 8%, that's mean tripling the current status of digital business contribution into the economy, which is very huge. Now, how to reach there? Definitely, there is a strong push from the governments within the region to bring in cloud service providers, to bring in data center operators, to bring in more global IT players to contribute into the country. However, we still believe that we can do a bit more in terms of really opening up the competitive edge, especially when it relates to regulated services, connectivity, subsea cable capacity, and pricing for that connectivity. The heart of the digital economy is what we call these neutral connectivity hubs or neutral digital hubs. These hubs are the really cornerstone of bringing digital business into the region and to bringing digital leaders to come and invest into the region. So by opening up subsea capacity, by easing entry barriers, and by developing a very much interconnected ecosystem, I think the region can be a very strong contender into the global digital arena. So I think these are our observations, and definitely we're very happy to discuss with the panelists and hear their thoughts. Thank you.
So this is an interesting question. I do agree with everything that's been said. I also think it's possibly the wrong question for the region. Okay, or let's say slightly the wrong focus for the region. And what do I mean by that? So my background is heavily in telecoms, and if you look at telecoms indicators over the last 10 years, the GCC countries in particular tend to be in the top 20 of the countries in the world in terms of telecom infrastructure, utilization of that infrastructure, and it's consistent. It's not like it spikes one year and then drops down another year. So we are, and most people don't know this, we are leaders in the world when it comes to deployment of infrastructure. So when we look at data centers, generally speaking, your core infrastructure is real estate, power, and cables. We're good. And I might loop, and I think in other parts of the panel, I might loop back around to these 3 points. So if we are looking at readiness, I think we need to be looking at the next set of requirements. It's not the core infrastructure requirements. We need to maintain our lead. We need to keep growing. We need to stay ahead of the curve. One of them has been touched upon, which is talent. We don't have sufficient talent. The silver lining is nowhere in the world they have sufficient talent. And we're not just seeing this in data centers. We're seeing this in subsea cables. All the professionals are retiring, and we're looking around to see who's going to take their place. There aren't that many people. We're seeing this in satellites. We're seeing this in spectrum. So we're seeing this in a lot of things, and data center is adding to the pool where we need to tackle the talent issue while we have the time, before it becomes a massive constraint that will not allow us to proceed any further. The other point is, or the second point I should say, out of three, is data. Or actually the second and third point is data, but from a different angle. Data residency, data jurisdiction, and data privacy are all problems that have yet to be cracked. Everyone's realized that data is valuable. But in order for a connected society to work and a connected world to work, the data needs to flow. However, it's your data. You want to extract value from it even when it's being used in another jurisdiction. So this is an area that we need to look at, even if we look at it as regions and not the globe. But we need to crack this. And the last point is, great, we have this fantastic physical infrastructure, this fantastic regulatory infrastructure. What are people doing with it? And this is where I think we have the right mechanisms, we need to have the right mechanisms in place to learn how to innovate on the usage of all of this. Case in point, this region has been one of the first regions to deploy 5G. Okay, a lot of the countries in the region have robust 5G networks. What we lack are the use cases. And I think we are going to hit a point where our physical capabilities are outstripping our actual usage of that. So we need to make sure that that also grows along with it.
Yeah, I tend to agree with everybody here in the panel, and that's an advantage because I'm talking. I'm the last to talk, so I tend to summarize what they're saying. So basically, I think we all agree that we have the best infrastructure in this part of the world. Our GDP, contribution to the GDP in terms of digital economy is still, there is a good potential. We are at 3%, as I agree with Kamil, and there is a great potential. And on the other side, we also have lack of competencies, lack of skill set that need to be redeveloped again and continue to be developed. But then, and the data side, we need to basically see how we can monetize data residency so that we can make use of them in one way or another. But there is another side of the story here on the equation itself, is the SME market. And I think the digital SME market in this particular region is very, very moderate. I would say it's still in the low side. And we need to be careful on how we can develop the SME market in the MENA region in particular, and start, as you rightly said, Mus'ab, jumping from being consumers to producers. We would love to see other companies coming from this part of the world, especially the MENA regions, birth in the MENA region itself and serve the other side. And this is not happening. Inviting hyperscalers in this part of the world is it's a good thing. But then I think we should have also our mandates to those hyperscalers very clearly, in the sense that they need to watch out and they need to give a chance to develop the SME market in this part of the world. So we need them to develop an ecosystem. We need them to bring up our kids, our skill set, and provide them with a better chance of developing themselves in the sense that they create their own companies in areas that hyperscalers are not actually focusing right now. We were talking about the professional service side of the story. A lot of these hyperscalers are not really providing professional services today. They're doing a lot of things automated. That's a potential. That's good. That's where we can create companies to provide professional services for the hyperscalers. There are a lot of these applications, SaaS applications need to be developed. They need to give a chance to SMEs to develop those SaaS applications, the area of artificial intelligence, the area of blockchain, IoT, and so on and so forth. So I think we need to watch out, and we need to, the good thing is that there is a good momentum in this part of the world, and this momentum have accelerated, as you rightly said, during COVID-19. It was a wake-up call for a lot of these digital companies because there was a lot of demands happening during that 2.5 years period. And we were lucky also to be, overachieved, to be honest with you, during that COVID-19 rather than underachieve, thanks to the demand that we were getting from the market. The data residency part, I think that's a potential. That's a great potential for SMEs to start developing. Data residency will stay because it is, there is a national security, there is a lot of these national mandates. But then, for us to develop artificial intelligence, for instance, it is unavoidable to link those silos of data residency into a bigger cloud elsewhere, be it with the hyperscalers or others. Now, that integration part is in itself a great business potential for a lot of these SMEs to start developing. And I think that is happening. I see it happening. I see that we are also part of that equation, to be honest with you. I have a lot of those data residency part to serve my oil and gas, the government, and blah, blah, blah. But then there is also a demand for artificial intelligence where I need to start talking to the hyperscalers to integrate some of those, let's say, values and parameters. It doesn't have to be explicitly everything. It can be subsets where it does not actually violate the data residency part. So here we go. There is another potential that we can create companies out of in this part of the world, in the MENA region as a whole. So challenges are there, but the opportunities are greater. But I think a great focus we should put as corporates, as large corporates, into developing our SME markets, because that is where the contribution to the digital economy will be of a value. Thank you.
Thank you. I think one of the key things that's come out now, one of the key things that's just come out now is the fact that the region's in a quite a unique position. It's quite new, but there's enough stability there to hopefully learn lessons. And I think one of the questions leading back from what we've spoken to now is the lessons that can be learned from data centers in the Western world. So if you think about where the West is now, it's set off early. It's got a lot of data centers in place. It's got a lot of underperforming data centers. It's got energy issues. It's got security issues. And it's got staff issues. If you think where the region is now, there's ability here to actually jump to that next level without having all the, if you like, the old style baggage in place. And I think one of the things that will be interesting, and certainly the education piece is really interesting, where the issue at the moment with the infrastructure, what's in place, do you educate them on the infrastructure that's there? Or really is the opportunity is to train on where the future is? And I think the beauty of this region is that is where your advantage is, because you don't need to do the old infrastructure now. You are curating a whole new platform. So I think a few questions which would be nice to answer is, what's the view over the energy growth here? How do you prevent the situation like Europe's a great example where London's full, Dublin's full, Amsterdam's full, that you don't end up with hubs in one place, that you do actually start to spread this load around, and how you see that working. But also, going back to the point just made there, a lot of the West is dependent on the American hyperscalers. So their cloud platforms actually manage most of the infrastructure. What is coming out now is the fact that there's too much resilience there, too much dependence there, and the security is not there. So it'd be interesting, go back to the point made here, what can be done for a cloud infrastructure here? How would you develop that? So I'm going to throw it to you this time, Makbul, so we make it fair that you go first.
So I take the heat now. Right, so the way I see the future is driving us is basically hyperscalers will be there. There will be big clouds, medium clouds, and small clouds, to make it simple. Now, those 3 layers of cloud will be integrated in order to exchange data And the fourth will be, or the rationale will be the artificial intelligence mandates, or maybe, let's say, ambitious goals that we have all together. Because artificial intelligence will not work without data. And when I say artificial intelligence, I don't mean artificial intelligence for commodities and you mean for, let's take the oil and gas, for instance. The oil and gas today in the GCC region is very much on pressure in terms of operation cost management, in terms of capex versus opex, in terms of, there's a lot of pressure here is happening from an economical perspective. What is the way out? The artificial intelligence. You need to automate the drill, welling. You need to automate the seismic processing of data. You need to automate a lot of those components within the oil and gas industry. And so who's going to do that? It's us as a digital community. How? By artificial intelligence. Now, you cannot do that if you don't have integrated clouds happening between the big clouds, the medium clouds, and the small clouds, which are nothing but silos serving the data residency part. And that is where I said in the beginning that there will be integrated kind of clouds happening for the artificial intelligence part. Now, the bad side of the story is that we need also to watch out for the power and for the carbon mandates that we are all having. And I think there is a good movement today within nations. There are good men to manage that side of the story. But again, there is one thing we need to watch out, is that we don't need hyperscalers to take over. We need hyperscalers to create market. There's two things. We need to watch out. They are giant. They are elephants. They're good. They're needed. We love them. We use them. I use them in my data center. But I always say we need you as a creator of a market rather than a dominator of a market.
So, if we're talking about let me take the question in two parts. The first part is where I think we're going. The second part is about some of the challenges, or to avoid some of the challenges that are being faced in Europe and the US. Where I think we're going is we're going to go to more. I think the challenge is that we expect things faster and bigger all the time, which means that your constraint is starting to become less about the computing power and more about the latency. I mean, we used to think 100 milliseconds was okay, and then 50 milliseconds it's good, and now it's, no, I need 20 milliseconds, which gives you a physical constraint on how far away the processing can be. And that's before we even touch upon the things like data residency and data jurisdiction. So I think we're going to see a lot more edge data centers. I think we're going to see a lot more distribution of the computing power. And early indications are that this is going to be growing at an accelerated rate. And that's even before you factor in COVID-19 and the accelerated uptake of data and the accelerated creation of data. Excuse me. By some measures, we're looking at perhaps something like a 38% compound annual growth rate in edge computing. How do we avoid what's happening in the West? To an extent, I don't think we can. It's a question of the level of technology that we're at. So earlier I'd said that I think the three physical components of a data center would be real estate, would be power, and would be cables, subsea cables. Real estate, you're going to run out. It's just simple math. The rate of data growth and the rate of storage is accelerating at an insane pace. And part of it is, I think, because we just don't delete our emails. I mean, cloud makes things so convenient. We have all these pictures uploaded on, on Apple and on Google and whatever, and that needs to be stored somewhere. Part of it's driven by our own data usage, out of sight, out of mind. Yeah, it's just consumerism dialed up to 11. Power, regions in a fantastic state of power. The power rates are some of the cheapest in the world. I mean, I regularly, whenever I talk to operators outside the region, their eyes, open 3 times as wide. But sustainability is the new issue. And right now, we're all focused on solar energy. I honestly don't think that's the future. I think it's the present. It is a solution. It is not the solution. And the reason is because the one thing solar energy needs is land. It needs flat space, which, guess what? So do data centers. It's actually competing against its own consumers. And the ratio of land required to power generated is not going to keep up with data centers. We need to find a new renewable source of energy. Solar can be part of the solution. I don't think it will be the whole solution. And then cables, as I touched upon earlier, I think cables are going to be the limiter. Light is, we call it the speed of light for a reason, but the more hops it has to take, the ODFs at each end will limit how quickly we can transmit it. One of the reasons that we've not seen more uptake of use cases for 5G is because 5G inherently is national. The moment it has to hit a subsea cable, it starts hitting other slowdowns and problems. So I think we are going to see a lot more distribution. I think we need to fundamentally reassess how all of this works, how all of this connects. If we want to keep up with the pace of how we want the data to behave, we need to make sure the systems on it hit the next level of innovation. And that's before even factoring in what my colleague was saying about the use of that data. Artificial intelligence, I do think is going to be a very strong tool, but if you need it to react within half a second, and it takes 2 seconds to get there, it's already limited in what it can do.
Thank you. So, very important questions and very important points raised. Let me start with the most important point, which is related to energy and what's happening in the energy first. Yes, we've seen a huge increase in energy pricing across various markets in Europe. Some Europe markets, energy prices have increased by tenfolds, which is really impacting how the whole power grid, not just the data center. However, I think it's our duty as human beings and individuals working in this industry to put sustainability and green energy as a top priority in each and every discussion. At Equinix, we've committed by 2030 to have a zero carbon emission among our whole Equinix platform. This commitment is not just for a business point of view. It's part of our duty towards our children and grandchildren and grandchildren to leave this planet in a much better shape. So sustainability and green energy, it's not just a question of economics. It's a question of commitment and a question of humanity. So we believe it's our duty to all play part in that. And if we are building data centers, we either build them sustainable and green or we don't build them. So this is how far we go in that. So for us, this is top priority, and I hope that everybody understand, appreciate that. We've seen also a big push from our global customers towards that mandate as well. So we're seeing the large hyperscalers and large operators asking for lower PUEs to ensure that data centers are green and sustainable. We believe we're playing a part on that, and we're happy to share our expertise and share our knowledge to really get into a much more sustainable industry and a much more sustainable ecosystem. So yes, energy prices are high. It will still go high. Fortunately, this region is not being impacted by that, but this does not mean that we do not really work towards a sustainability agenda, because this is our commitment to the to the new generations. So this is number one. Number two, you mentioned about cloud and how the cloud landscape is happening. You know, cloud is here to stay. You know, it's not whether you will be adopting cloud technology or not. It's when and how you'll be adopting cloud technology. So what cloud did it's really cloud democratized IT. So basically, any company today, small or big, have access to the same technologies that are used by giants. You know, so if I'm a small company based out of, I don't know, Indera, I can go and get into any of the cloud hyperscaler and use the same technology used by GE. You know, so cloud democratized the use and consumption of IT services. For us as a region here, we know that we are a consumer, not a producer of information technology. We hope to be a kind of producer, but we will never be able to reach the level that was reached in Silicon Valley, because these guys have been working for years and years and years to develop that, and they have their plans to attract the best minds. They have some of the best universities. So yes, we want to compete, but I mean, it's very, very ambitious to compete. But I think what we need to do is we need to make sure that we utilize these cloud technologies to our benefit. And it's very important not to get locked into a cloud technology. So today, what's happening in the market, we are seeing a lot of innovators from various IT domains, you know, which is putting a new trend of what we call a multi-hybrid cloud technology. So me as an enterprise, I have now access to a variety of clouds. I can pick and choose the best and the most innovative solution that suit my business, that suit my industry. Now, how can I consume that? This is the key question, because I cannot go just in and start, you know, plugging into clouds. It does not work. It cannot be managed. It cannot be managed. It's too complex. You know, before, I don't know, you know, I don't look old, but I'm old. So in old days, you know, when we had the client-server computing and all that, you know, you had to go in and start picking systems from various vendors, and then you pay, I don't know, $100 for your software, but you pay $5,000 to integrate it. You know, so now with this new multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, the key is how we can reduce complexity. And how we can reduce complexity is really by building a distributed digital infrastructure that allows you to be at the proximity of the clouds, that you can consume innovations from various cloud vendors within the same platform. And this is where this is what Equinix stands for, you know. So we are the digital infrastructure company. We allows that distributed architecture to work within our facilities, you know. So the way to go is multi-cloud, hybrid cloud. The way to go is building that scalable, unlocked digital infrastructure that will allow you to consume innovations from various cloud vendors, you know, and you can name them, you know. For example, some people want to use Azure, but for some workloads, but Amazon is much better in some other workloads, or Google for AI, or I don't know, maybe Alibaba for some stuff. So the point is how I can build that multi-cloud to help me innovate, help me improve my business processes, and help me be more competitive and more agile, and not to be locked into one technology, because technology is here to help me, not to be what you say, not to be a hindrance towards my growth. And the third point is where we are heading. I mean, We are definitely heading into this multi-hybrid cloud infrastructure. We're heading into a world where cloud consumption is going to increase. Digital transformation is going to accelerate. I have no doubt about it. You know, if anybody comes and tell me digital transformation or digital consumption is not going to increase, I wouldn't bet my money on that. So definitely we're going to see growth, and we're going to see a heavy load on enterprise networks, especially with the new technologies emerging. You know, now we're talking AI, we're talking IoT, Internet of Things, but also there are new technologies in the kitchens being cooked. You know. Now, very soon you'll be hearing about all the plans regarding the metaverse. I don't know if you saw last month there was an auction on lands in the metaverse, and that was generating hundreds of millions and most probably billions. You've heard about what's happening on the NFT side, what's happening on the crypto side. So definitely all these technologies are going to put a huge load on enterprise and corporate networks. So IT leaders and corporate leaders need to make sure that they are building a very strong, scalable infrastructures, a cloud-ready, business-ready, optimized, and simplified. And if you see, you know, all these words are against each other. You know, you want scalable and simple, not easy to be done. But this is the challenge today that's happening, and this is where we're going. And I can tell you, more and more complexity are going to happen because of all these loads being put on enterprise infrastructures. However, it's the mission of us as corporate IT solution providers and yourselves as IT leaders and business leaders to make sure that we are really dissecting this complexity and building this simple platform that will allow us to grow and prosper. Thank you.
Thank you, Kamil. I think it's good to hear these views. I'm not sure if I can add anything here, but I think I will go back to the last question you asked. How do we see the market? Definitely, as Kamil said, there's acceleration in the digital transformation, and I think this is driven by multiple factors. One factor is the businesses themselves. They want to offer services and products to their customers anywhere, anytime to make money. This is one. Second, the governments also. They want to reach out to the citizens, make their life better, and also make them happy. And the third one is ourselves, people. We want to leverage on the technology, try to maybe find opportunities, find jobs in some of the cases, and also maybe enjoy life. So this acceleration in the digital transformation led to many users being online, many devices, many connections, many transactions, many data being transmitted, and I think this requires agile IT. So, for any organization to improve the customer experience or maybe to reduce the overall operational capital, that will give them a competitive edge against their competitors. So I think agile IT is very important. The way I see the market is changing, especially from cloud and data center, is that I see it from two sides. One from the enterprise side, the other one from service provider sides. So from the enterprise side, I think we see less and less enterprise data centers. So I think customers or enterprises are somehow getting away their internal data centers and moving some of their workloads to the cloud. And if it is not to the cloud, at least very close from where the cloud resides. This is one angle. The other angle is the service providers. So we have witnessed in E&, the change in the profile of our customers. So we used to have all enterprises and government customers as a colo customers. Now the profile have changed. The main adopter of the colocation services are actually hyperscalers and the ones who comes and ask for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 megawatt of power. And when this hyperscaler comes, they comes with a specific demand. So speed is one. So they want the facilities to be available very fast. They want the capacity to be very high. They want the density to be also very high. So we're no longer talking about 3, 4, 5 kilowatt per rack. And also with very complex requirements when it comes to SLA, when it comes to security services. And unfortunately, all this expected to be at cheaper price as well. So it's I mean, this is how the market is going. Back to some of the comments that my colleagues have mentioned here. I think two things that we lack here is, one of them is somebody to take the driver's seat. And the second one is the lack of legalization in some of the areas. So taking the driver's seat is, I mean, putting initiatives in some of the areas. I would say in UAE, maybe we have some initiatives that has been made by the authorities. Less than 1 year ago, there was an initiative by the government to try to attract hyperscalers, and there was 2 months of workshop with different entities, including telcos, including data center providers, including utility companies, and many ministries as well were involved in this study. And one of the questions raised, what my colleague Maqbool is saying is, what is it for us? We can attract those hyperscalers, but what is it for us? And I think the main point of that was highlighted is that how can those hyperscalers, when they come to the market, they can improve the skill set and they can, help people maybe elevate their skills. And so taking the driver's seat is one major thing, and lack of legalization in some of the areas. I would say specifically maybe on energy side. I think in UAE, everybody knows that TRA used to be Telecommunication Regulatory Authority. Now they're Telecommunication and Digital Regulatory Authority. So digital has been put as part of their, mandate. But I think from the energy side, we lack some legalization, especially on how to use maybe solar, or how to use, other renewable energy, nuclear energy, for example. So that's.
Thank you. I think the one thing we can take from the panel now is we've got an opportunity. There's thought leadership here how to go forward, and there's lots of opportunity. I'm conscious of time from this panel, but as a quick wrap up from the panel, which I hopefully you found very informative, I would like to ask a quick question that they come up with one item they would love to see take place in this region in the next 24 months, which they believe would drive this region forward.
That's a short-term plan.
What would you like to say?
I actually like to see within the MENA region, Middle East and North Africa, a new hyperscaler to come up in order to build, to establish balance. I tell you it's possible. Maybe Kamel does not believe on that. I tell you it's possible. I tell you there is a great opportunity. We have the skill set in the MENA region. We have the money. We have the will. With those three things, a new hyperscaler should come up from the MENA region. Maybe not solely from one country or two. It can be a joint. You have the Indian continent, you have the African continent, you have the Middle East, and with that three, I think we have everything. And we have the software developers, the best software developers that the West is depending on. A lot of these software development is actually happening today where? In the MENA region. You know that better than me. So where is the challenge here? In the skill set? We have the skill set. Why not? Because culturally, we've been brought to be dependent, to be consumers. And it's time for us, culturally, to break that cultural, not the financial, not the skill set, not the will, it's the culture. It's time for us to shift ourselves, to shift our mindset from being consumer to being producers. And that is the starting point of the new hyperscaler that will be built from the MENA region in order to build a balanced approach. Data is the oil, the future oil. It's going to be unbalanced to have a sole control over international data. It would have to stay decentralized. in order to manage the balance part of the story. And that is where I'm coming from. Yes, it's going to be integrated in order to have the AI and to have the IoT and to have all those fourth generation kind of products. But the data has to be balanced and has to be controlled decentralizedly. And I think that's possible.
24 months, huh? All right, this is going to be a bit of a challenge in 24 months, but I would like to see a shift in the dominant paradigm. And now that can apply in multiple ways, but what I mean by it is I want to take forward that point about a cultural shift. Okay, the technology is there. We can use the technology, but if we don't change how we look at it, how we approach it, how we use it, today same as yesterday, yesterday same as the day before. So that the cultural shift that I'm talking about kind of has three parts. The first we've touched upon. My colleague Mahmoud has mentioned again, shift from consumer to producer. The second is we don't teach people how to fail, which is very, very important. Innovation doesn't happen without failure. Fail, learn from it, go do better. We don't teach that. So we need to teach people how to think like innovators, how to test ideas, watch them fail, take a lesson from it, and go on and try something different. And the third thing, I think, is right now content is predominantly generated from the West. Okay, so America creates a lot of content, Europe's now creating a lot of content. We have beautiful content. We have rich histories and traditions and mythologies. I really want to see more content, not just made by us, but for us. Where are our stories? Where are our histories shown in these contents? Even as simple as localization. I'm sorry, they get the Arabic language wrong. It's we need to take pride in our history and have it show through in our work. So I think shift the cultural mindset, shift the dominant paradigm. That's what I'd like to see.
Yes. So I just want to answer. Actually, I don't agree that we want one hyperscaler from the region, because a hyperscaler from the region will benefit 1-2 guys and will create 100, 200 jobs. This is not what we want. What we want is really to create a vibrant digital ecosystem coming out of this region. And UAE has been really, the vision of the leadership of the UAE has really been able to produce some of these companies. If you look at a company like Anghami, who was just listed in NASDAQ and generated a couple of billions. If you look at Souk.com, if you look at Kareem, if you look at many, many, many examples, Kitopi, the internet kitchen and this cloud. So what's happening in the UAE is really gearing up to building a very good digital startup ecosystem. And what we would love to see is we would love to see acceleration of that. So not one hyperscaler, but maybe 100, 200, 300 digital disruptor, digital innovator. And I don't think this region lack the talent or lack the credential to provide that, because we've seen examples. We've seen Souk, we've seen Kareem, we've seen many, many, many examples from many, many countries, So I think we can build a very strong, vibrant startup ecosystem. However, what we need to do is we need to give more liberations toward the industry, less regulations, What's hindering the, Musab was saying content origin. This is very key. Why major content providers are not creating content from the region to the region, but they are creating content and tramponing this traffic from Europe to the region. 80% of the internet traffic coming from the region is not routed from the region. It's routed from Europe. Why? Because of connectivity. Connectivity and data flow is the heart of the digital ecosystem. You allow that, you allow innovation, you allow digital disruptors to come, you allow talents to rise and prosper. So in the coming 24 months, what we would like to see is we would like to see a kind of ease for that connectivity and that data flow, maybe a reduction in the pricing, because many of our customers complain about that. We tell them, why don't you want to come to the region? Say, it's very expensive, it's much cheaper to be in Frankfurt and transmit content to the region than being in Dubai and transmitting to Dubai, which is an irony, So, or Dubai is much better than many others. I think Bahrain and Oman are doing great inroads as well, but we still see that we can do much better. So we want to create that digital ecosystem. This not one hyperscaler, but this hundreds and hundreds of cloud innovators coming from the region and serving the globe, not just the region. And I think that's an ambition not very far. We have the talent. We have many key talents who are working in corporates across the globe, and these people are ready to come and contribute to the prosperity and evolution of the digital economy in their respective countries. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Tim, I think I was really expecting this question yesterday, not from you, from the audience, but I never thought about the 24 months time frame. This is very short. My ambition was always to have, I can say local, but I can say GCC as well, to have one large software company in the region. We all like to use the big hyperscalers companies, but I think if we have something that can be originated from here and that can be localized to serve the market here and that can maybe grow in the region and go outside. We have proven as a region that in some sectors we have done very well. I think we have done very well in aviation. We have done very well in tourism. We have done very well in re-export commerce, for example, in some energy, some ICT services. But I think I would always love to see one software company. Why not? This region has 55 million of population, and it can serve also. This region I talk about GCC, but it can serve also the region around us. We have very good stability from security point of view. We have very good, as you mentioned, we have money, we have the will. I slightly disagree that maybe we don't have the right skill set when it comes to maybe having a software company that can provide services outside the region.
Thank you. Obviously, we're going to end now. I hope you'd all enjoyed this session. The purpose of this session was really to, I suppose, show what this region is all about. I think you can now hopefully have a good day knowing you've got confidence that there's a lot of activity in the region. So I'd just like you to thank my panelists for spending the time, and we'll carry on with the rest of the presentations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Why don't we give them a round of applause today?